What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married at First Sight UK Season 7, Episode 9. So two major things happened in this episode. Number one, everybody moved into their apartment, and number two, it was also Yes Week. Now, Yes Week is when one party has to do everything that the other party wants them to do. So one party's in charge, the other party has to do their bidding. And we don't have this at Married at First Sight US. So I've seen this before on Married at First Sight Australia, so I was very familiar with it. So let's get started with the episode. Let's start off with Keisha and Kwame. So first of all, Kwame, he says that he would love to hop into bed with Keisha and make it do what it do. But because he gets bored easily, I guess he doesn't want things to fizzle out too soon. He wants to take it really slow with her. So this is the reason why he's postponing on them consummating their marriage and being intimate, etc. Now with Kwame, I can't tell if he's feeding us BS or if this is how he really feels. I do see him being dog enough to sleep with a woman that he's not initially very attracted to. I do see him doing that. So the fact that he hasn't done that yet with Keisha, I'm thinking, okay, that's a positive sign that he just doesn't want to use her for her body and then, start treating her horribly until the end of this experiment. So that's a good thing that he wants to take it slow and he's been restraining himself. But at the same time, we know that she's not his type. And we know that if they met in a bar, he wouldn't ask for her number. So then I wonder, does he not want to sleep with her just because of the fact that he's just not attracted to her and it's just never going to happen? But he's feeding us all these lies about wanting to take it slow, wanting to get to know her better because he understands that this is a long-term commitment. Like he sees this as a real marriage. So I don't know. I cannot tell with Kwame yet, but I can definitely tell with Keisha exactly what she wants because she makes it known every single episode that she is ready to get down and dirty with Kwame. And she is just chomping at the bit to get into bed with this man. Now, I do wish that Keisha would take it slow, that she would not be so obvious with what she wants, and because it comes off as looking very desperate, extremely desperate. And I wish that she would kind of scale it back a bit. Don't let this man know, especially a man who's not really giving you the attention that you want and not coming at you the way you would want him to come at you. He doesn't deserve, all of this beautiful sex goddess that you're giving him. He doesn't deserve that, but that's what you're giving him. He's rejecting it. He doesn't want it. So I really do wish that she would scale it back. And I understand that for some women, they think that if they come on really, really strong, that the man's going to be pleased with that because the man is going to be like, oh, wow, she's really free with herself and very free with her body. This is nice. It's refreshing that she's so willing to want to be with me. Like maybe they'll take it as a compliment that you're showing him how badly you want to sleep with him, that they take it as a compliment. It makes them feel good and you think that you're off to a good start. But sometimes it just comes off as looking very desperate. So for Yes Week, Keisha was the one that was in charge. And so I was kind of scared for Kwame because I thought she was going to have him doing some type of sex Olympics or something. But instead, she catered to him. She didn't even ask him to do anything for her. She cooked for him. And while she was cooking, she had on this pink bodysuit that showed off all of her curves. And he liked it. He complimented her on it. And so she was giving him body. She was even dancing for him while she was cooking. She was giving him the full show. There was even a scene where she had bent over to twerk. And the seam of her catsuit busted wide open on the bottom. And but they made light of it. They joked about it and it was fine. So while they're having dinner, Kwame says that he wants to be less selfish. He says that he met this amazing woman and he's looking for something, long term. He keeps talking about that and he wants to respect that and he wants to move accordingly, while Keisha keeps telling him how badly she wants to sleep with him. So that's that with Keisha and Kwame. I need my girl just to scale it back just a little bit. Have some fun with him chasing you. And if he is not chasing you right now, then don't show all your cards at once, because he's not showing all of his cards at once. But anyways, let's move on. So we have Duca and Whitney. So Duca moves into the apartment by himself. Whitney was not ready to move in with him. In fact, while Duca's moving in, Whitney's having a one-on-one therapy session with one of the experts. And the expert wants to get to the bottom of their issues, and Whitney says that Duca has this like split personality. He's one way with her while they are in private, away from the cameras. And then when the cameras are there or when there's an audience in front of him, he puts on a show. He puts on an act, and it's not the real Duca. So she doesn't know if she's getting to know the real Duca or if she's getting to know a caricature of Duca. So she decides, the expert asks her, so what is it that you really want to do? Do you want to stay in this experiment, or do you just want to call it quits? Well, she says she's going to have a conversation with Duca and then make up her mind from there. I could not believe what a breakthrough Whitney and Duca made. So she goes to the apartment to sit down and talk with him. And it was just amazing to see a softer, less sulky Whitney. So she was telling him that she felt very ostracized at the commitment ceremony because everybody was attacking her. The experts made her feel like whatever issues that they were having, it was her fault, that she wasn't doing enough. Then she got attacked by Thomas, and it was a really bad experience for her. And she says that she really expected Duca, as her husband, to stand up for her, to be there for her while she was feeling attacked and ostracized. And he did absolutely nothing. She talked about having to put back the pieces of her life after her mother passed away and how she's still struggling with that. So she's very vulnerable right now. And, she wants to lean on someone. She's looking for someone to be her strength, to be her support. And Duca is just MIA. So when she explained this to him, Duca, I guess, began to see her in a different light. He saw a softer, more sensitive Whitney, and he felt bad. He felt bad about not being there for her. And so then he starts to cry. And she actually comforted him. He was able to lay his head on her shoulder, and she hugged him. And it was like, who is this woman? Who is this? I could not believe what I was watching. So they hug, and she tells him that she wants to get to know the real Duca. And it was just amazing. Amazing. It was like a miracle, watching a miracle take place. So they got excluded from Yes Week because they're having some real issues that they have to work through. And so instead they went out for dinner, and they really enjoyed each other's company, and they had a really nice time. And so it was just beautiful to see Duca and Whitney finally getting along, because I didn't want this to end before they actually gave it a chance. So now Whitney has kind of taken down some walls. Duca has become a little bit more real, and it was a really beautiful segment for Duca and Whitney. So moving on to Thomas and Adrian. So after moving in, they get into a really bad argument about Whitney and Duca, because at the commitment ceremony, Thomas had to voice his opinion and give his thoughts about Whitney. And he said some things that were not very nice and not very sensitive to what Whitney was going through. Basically, like, she wasn't trying hard enough, that she didn't realize what a great man she has sitting next to her, that all she did was complain about Duca. So he voiced his opinions, and Adrian didn't like it. Adrian called him out on it at the commitment ceremony and was like, you know what, we need to give her a chance. We have to give Whitney the benefit of the doubt. This is her experience, and we can't ignore what she's feeling or what she's experiencing. And Thomas didn't like that. So they got into an argument at the commitment ceremony. I remember Thomas just storming away because he had enough of Adrian. He felt like Adrian was trying to play superhero for Whitney, and Thomas didn't like that. And so now they're talking about that, or rather they're arguing about that. And Thomas demanded an apology for Adrian yelling at him at the commitment ceremony, and Adrian refused to apologize. He refused to apologize. And so after they screamed at each other for a couple, I don't know how long it lasted, Thomas was fed up. No, Adrian was fed up, and he just stormed out. I think it was Adrian that stormed out. So yeah, it was Adrian that left. Adrian comes off as kind of meek and quiet, and you kind of wonder, how is he going to handle a personality as strong and as big as Thomas's? But he's holding his own. He has been definitely holding his own. So Adrian comes back, They have a conversation and they end up making up. Okay, they realize where they went wrong and they end up making up. So for Yes Week, Adrian made Thomas do a collage of the top 10 things that would describe Adrian. And so he did it. Thomas did it without complaining. You know, he had his magazines, cut out his pieces, made his collage of the things that would describe Adrian. And they had a fun time going through that. So all was well. And so later on, they met at a small theater. And so Thomas walks in and Adrian's on stage with the piano player and he begins to sing one of Adrian's favorite songs. I forgot what song it was, but he's got such a beautiful voice. He did such a good job singing that song. So he sings this song to Thomas. Thomas loved it. It was wonderful. And it was just nice to see them back on the right track. Adrian has a history of theater production or theater, music and theater. So his voice was just absolutely awesome. Moving on to April and George. So they do move in, and for Yes Week, April is the one that's in charge. So when they had moved into their apartment, obviously they're on an upper floor, and they went out on the balcony, and George has an immense fear of heights. He could barely even sit on the balcony or even open the door to get to the balcony because he's got such a profound fear of heights. So like I said, for Yes Week, April is in charge and she wants George to confront his fear of heights. And he went along with it. And so they go to this stadium. First, they have to walk across this bridge, this elevated bridge, to get to the stadium. And the bridge is extremely high, but he did that with no problem. And I thought that was the challenge, walking across this bridge, and that was it. But boy, was I wrong. So when they get to the stadium, they're going to scale the wall of the stadium from top to bottom. And it's a very, very tall stadium. So they have to put on their gear, their ropes, and whatever else. And so he did it. He actually scaled the wall. He went all the way from the very, very top all the way down to the very, very bottom. And he did a really good job. He conquered his fear. So April was immensely proud of him. And, I guess, she just kind of wanted to toughen him up a little bit. I think she kind of sees George as being extra sensitive. And so she just kind of wants him to be a little bit more tough. I don't want to say manly, just a little bit more tough, I guess. Moving on to PJ and Jess. So for Yes Week, Jess was, oh, by the way, they moved into their apartment. I think they had a conversation about their relationship. And it's the same, I think PJ wanted to kind of gauge where Jess was as far as, is she developing feelings for him? Are they kind of moving forward in the romantic department? And Jess told PJ, no, she still does not have any feelings for him, that she just sees him as a friend, and that's that. And he takes it all in stride. He's not bothered by it. He's like, well, it is what it is. I'm just going to have to try harder. Bless his heart. So for Yes Week, Jess takes them to karaoke and they had a really great time. They bonded, they sang, it was a fun time for both of them. And so Jess wanted him to be more relaxed and to not be so serious because he's always kind of like, I don't think he's upset or sad or anything, but he comes across as being very serious, very deep in his thoughts. Like there really isn't a playful side to him. So she wanted to do something just to kind of break him down a little bit, have a good time, be silly, be playful. And she accomplished that. And they had a really good time. But as far as a romantic part, they're not there. Moving on to Zoe and Jenna. Okay, Zoe stresses me out. Zoe stresses me out because Zoe stresses herself out about things that are not even problematic. But anyway, so they move into their apartment. Everything is fine. So for Yes Week, Zoe is the one that's in charge. And so she takes Jenna to the park for them to do this entire workout routine. So they have to go exercise. It was what it was. So then later on, Zoe actually cooks dinner for Jenna and she cooks a vegetarian meal. Now, Zoe herself didn't like it at all. I don't know if Jenna liked it because she didn't eat much of it, but I thought she would have liked it better than Zoe because she's used to eating plant-based foods. But Zoe didn't care for it. So Jenna says that she never felt like she was a lot, but Zoe makes her feel like she's a lot to handle. So Jenna, I think, is like trying to understand, like, why does she make me feel like I'm a problem, or I'm a challenge, or I'm too much to handle just because she's vegan? And I have not seen Jenna force her veganism on Zoe. I haven't seen it at all. But Zoe becomes extremely defensive when it comes to this whole veganism or vegan lifestyle. She's like acting as if Jenna is forcing her to be vegan, that or either Jenna is criticizing her for not. Maybe there's stuff going on behind the scenes that we're just not seeing, but I don't see a problem. I don't think Jenna has a problem with Zoe not being vegan. It seems more like Zoe has a problem with Jenna being vegan. So that's why Zoe stresses me out, because she keeps talking about, oh, I'm not going to change. If you expect me to change, it's not going to happen. And I don't like this food. And this food tastes horrible. And I can't see myself eating this for the rest of my life. And I love meat. I want meat. I'll never give up meat. And it's like, girl, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Unless there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to, I don't understand why Zoe is so defensive when it comes to Jenna being vegan. Zoe says that she feels like she's doing all of the compromising. I don't see how. I don't understand what's going on. I don't see how. Because I think it would be more offensive for a vegan to live with someone who was not vegan, because they have to see someone eat meat. And they're so offended by the consumption of meat that it would be more of a struggle for her to witness Zoe eating meat than it would be for Zoe to witness Jenna not eating meat. Because, Jenna probably thinks, oh, those poor animals, those poor creatures, they were murdered, they were slaughtered, and here you are in front of me eating their carcass. It would be more difficult for Jenna to go through this than it would be for Zoe. But Zoe acts like she's the one that's suffering. I don't know. Moving on to Laura and Richie. So Richie's in charge of Yes Week, and so he takes Laura to go play soccer, and what we call soccer, I know the rest of the world calls football, but he takes her to go play soccer, and he wanted to do something physical with her because he was hoping that the physical contact on the soccer field would lead to physical contact back home. So they play soccer. They had a great time. It did bring them a little bit closer. I think this was the first time that I've watched them kiss without Laura acting like repulsed in a way. So all in all, I guess their soccer playing went well, and he was able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. And that's where the episode ended. So Yes Week, moving in week. It was interesting. It was a cute little episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on your way out. Don't forget to rate the video. And if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe. And I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.